Hello everyone, thanks for coming outside with me today. Today I want to address the topic of a do-it-all arrow. Is there an arrow that can cover everything from 3D and fetus style archery where you're shooting long unknown distances to indoors of 20 yards, fat diameters, but also can be durable and easily taken into the woods in a hunting situation? Is there an arrow that such exists? I have two examples with me today. I want to talk about the pros and cons, and if you're brand new to the sport, hopefully this will help you out, or if you're already in the sport of archery, maybe this will help you decide if sticking with one size fits all arrow is good for you, or if you want to branch out into different sizes and spines. So I'll answer the question very quickly. If you are a beginner, I think yes, there is a do-it-all arrow. If you're more of an intermediate to an experienced archer, such as I am, I've been doing this for a very long time, I don't think there's a one size fits all, although I do think there's a one size fits most for most of my categories, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But first, let's talk about, if you are a beginner, one size fits all. First, let's talk about aluminum versus carbon arrows. So you can get an aluminum arrow in the many different spines that are offered in aluminum arrows to fit your spine needs, and that will help you because aluminums are usually much larger in diameter. It will help you with the indoor scene. The problem is that this will not help you with the outdoor scene because it's very heavy, and it will be a very poor choice for 3D, unknown 3D. In particular, here in the Northeast, we have IBO, which means we have unknown distances, so I have to guess the yardage before I take the shot. A lot of local clubs have unknown shoots, although some are known, and those unknown shoots are really difficult with an aluminum arrow because your pin gaps are so large because the arrow is so heavy. The durability of an aluminum arrow compared to today's carbon is also not as high. Now, the price point for an aluminum arrow in today's world is amazing. You can get these at a very high tolerance, 1,000 straightness plus or minus 1 grain for 2/3, 3/4 the cost of the same specs of a carbon arrow. So price point wise, aluminums make a lot of sense, and they will cover your indoor and they'll cover your hunting, but the durability is just not really there, and also the speed when it comes to 3D and field archery is also not there. So that's why I strongly recommend, if you're new to the sport, that you get a standard diameter carbon arrow. This is a Victory V-Force. It's the Gamer series, so it's a 3,000 straightness, which is what I prefer to shoot. You can go up and get an Elite series, which is a 1,000 straightness, or the Sport series, which is a 6,000. And most arrow manufacturers will make a 6, 3, and 1,000 straightness arrows. For gold tip, that would be the XT Hunter for this in the 3,000s, or the Hunter for the 6,000s. And Easton makes a lineup as well that would be in the 6, 3, and 1 category. Now, when it comes to buying that straightness, that's up to you depending on your price point. You don't need a 3,000s or 1,000 straightness arrow, in particular if you're new to the sport. But for me, I have a very long arrow, 31 inches, almost 32, because I have a very long draw length of 31 inches. And so I like to have a straighter arrow because my arrow is so long. If you have a short draw leg, 26, 27 inches, you'll be cutting a lot more off of this arrow, and you could cut off the wobbly ends, and you'll end up with a much straighter arrow. I don't get that luxury, so I like to start with a straighter arrow. What really makes the difference, though, is in the carbon construction. This is a very durable arrow. I've had very few arrows from Victory break, and particularly from their V-Force lineup. This is a very solid diameter for hunting, as well as a solid diameter as well as weight for the 3D scene. So that's where I really like this as well. I can carry this right to those 3D foam animals in the spring and summer, and that translates right into the fall when I'm shooting at live 3D animals, at whitetails and turkeys into the woods, and I can take that same exact arrow, nothing changes, nothing is different, and I can be just as accurate year-round with it. When it comes to shooting it in an indoor setting, sure, it's not nearly going to be as fat as a 23, 25, or 27 diameter aluminum, but it's definitely going to be larger than a lot of your smaller diameter carbons like a 166 or a 204. So it's going to cut a few lines if you're lucky at the indoor scene, and really the indoor for a lot of people is just having fun, shooting around with your buddies, supporting your local club during the off season in the wintertime when really we have nothing else better to do. So in the spring and summer and fall, though, when we're really focusing on 3D and prepping for the archery season and then the archery season in and of itself, I really don't think you can beat a standard diameter 244, 245, or 246 diameter shaft. Like I said, my personal choice is the V-Force from Victory. I just bought these actually a few weeks ago and got them fletched up here, and I'm prepping them for my spring and summer of 3D. Now, I get a lot of questions about the 23, 25, 27 diameter carbon arrows that you can get screw-in inserts for. A lot of the target arrows, mind you, these days have glue-in points, so they are meant specifically for target hunting. We have long gone away with glue-on broadheads here in the 21st century. But when it comes to those fatter diameter arrows, companies are starting to release standard threaded threaded inserts, which means you could hypothetically put a broadhead onto those larger diameter carbon arrows. So is that a good idea? Because that would then cover the lightness for speed for 3D, it would then cover the screw-in broadhead for hunting, and then it would also cover the indoor if you're shooting a 23 or 25 or 27 diameter arrow to help cut some lines when you're trying to punch paper. So for indoor, I shoot 23 diameter arrows because I am a bow hunter class, which means I can't have for most shoots, and particularly local to me here in PA, 23. Anything over that, I cannot shoot 25s or 27s. So I shoot the VTAC 23 from Victory, and it's been a fantastic arrow. I shot a little bit 3D with it this summer. It is a legal size, and then I can also take it into the winter indoor scene. The issue with a lot of those large diameter carbon arrows is that they have a very thin wall. They are not built to the same level of durability that their smaller standard and micro diameter shafts even, or their aluminum counterparts in diameter. They are not built for that. They are built very light and very thin walled, which means they're great if you're shooting foam, and they're great if you're shooting at paper targets on the indoor scene. But as soon as you take them outside and you take them into a hunting situation, you're going to be snapping them. And you know, sure, I've snapped some standard diameter arrows as well on whitetails. I think we all have. But the issue with those larger diameter carbon arrows is that their price point can be 2 or 3 times as much as their standard diameter carbon or aluminum counterparts. And if you're going to be snapping arrows, I would much rather snap a cheaper one on a whitetail than a really expensive one, because then I'm now out of an arrow for both indoor 3D and hunting instead of just being out of a hunting shaft. I would much rather buy a cheap aluminum and shoot that for indoor, a standard diameter Victory carbon arrow and shoot that for the outdoor 3D scene, and then take it right into the woods in the fall. Both of these combined, you're talking about $80 a dozen shafts and about 65 dozen shafts. You're talking about 150 bucks, let's say. That's how much you would spend for just 1 dozen of a pair or a set of high grade large diameter carbon arrows for target, 3D and indoor. And quite frankly, I'd only get 12 of those arrows. I get 24 of these, and I can really ration them out. So quite frankly, no, I do not recommend any of the Easton's Super Drive 23, 25, 27, the Victory VTAC series, the Gold Tip 22s. I don't recommend them for hunting just because they're not built as durable as the arrows that are meant for hunting. They are built to be shot on the 3D course, to be shot at the indoor, and quite frankly, they're really expensive. And for most archers at home, you at home, if you're new to the sport, it's a lot of money to fork over for just a dozen arrows. And quite frankly, if you don't have the ability to work on them, it's not a fun process. They're kind of hard to tune compared to a standard diameter arrow. So I would much rather leave those for later down the road when I'm picking different sizes and different arrows. And for right now, if I'm just picking one, go with a standard diameter carbon arrow and let it fly and enjoy the sport of archery. So that's all for this video. If you have any questions about picking an arrow, picking a spine, picking diameter, follow the links in the description below and hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, send me an email, and of course you can always leave a comment here on YouTube. Hope you're able to get outside, enjoy the sport of archery, archery hunting if you so choose. Definitely enjoy God's beautiful creation, albeit it's a little bit cold, and we'll get to see you next time.